Welcome back to Five Friday Feedback. Thank you so much for joining us. I really hope that you enjoyed Monday's podcast where we talked about, can AI really manage money? I thought it was a pretty wide ranging conversation where we talked about some of the pitfalls, some of the good things, some of the bad things, and some of the things we see coming in the future. But I feel like one of the biggest things that you and I talked about, Dom, is us becoming over dependent on AI and outsourcing that responsibility. So I want to open today's podcast with a question. If we outsource our financial decisions to AI, are we also outsourcing our responsibility for those decisions as well?
Interesting. If we outsource our financial decisions to AI, are we also outsourcing the responsibility? Wow.
And let me tell you why
I don't think you
this.
can.
Let me tell you why I think this.
Okay.
I think that people
Please.
are so willing to give AI control because they want to be able to say, like, it wasn't my fault. It was like whatever happened wasn't my fault. It was the AI's fault. We're so willing to give away that responsibility because we don't want the setback to say that, oh, I failed at this. Like if we succeed, then we get to be like, yeah, me and AI did it. But if we fail, then it's like, no, AI did it all on its own. And I was just the passive person in the backseat of the
I think that's spot on. I think as humans, we love to blame others and we hate accountability, right? We hate it, but we need it. We need it bad more than ever. I think you're spot on. But that's good for nobody. Blaming the AI for it losing you money or making poor financial decisions, that's your own fault still, right? You got to take extreme ownership of everything that happens in your life. And if you choose to go with an AI, if you choose to go with an all-knowing bot, and this all-knowing bot doesn't pay off, how can you blame a robot? It's a robot. It makes no sense. It's like you're cutting vegetables and you cut yourself on the knife. Are you mad at the knife? You cut yourself. You use the AI. AI is just a tool, right? I don't think you can outsource the responsibility. I think a lot of people would want to, and probably will. That's just not how that works.
It almost feels like people want to, for convenience sake, just get everything off of their chest. Hey, this is not convenient for me to have to think about this. But then at what point does convenience turn into straight up dependence? Dependence on the AI to do everything for me the right way. And if things aren't going the right way, then it's not my fault. It's its fault. At what point do we need to start taking personal freaking responsibility in life and start, it almost feels like we're going backwards. Like, yes, AI is helping us advance, but it's taking away our agency, our sense of we can do this on our own.
It kind of, when you were saying that, it made me think that, we're born as, babies, and we grow up as kids, and, your mother and your father, they take care of you, right? We help. And they feed you, they pay the bills, they get you toys, right? They help you, they take care of you. We get a taste of life, and you're like, man, this sucks. I have to pay for all this stuff. Nobody coddles me anymore. Nobody loves me anymore. And I think sometimes there's a great large percentage of the population that I think they want to get back to that feeling of when they were kids. That I don't want to deal with bills. I want it automated. I don't want to do that. I don't want to have to clean my house. I want a maid. I don't want to worry about I don't want to do any of that. I just want it done for me. I just want to relax, right? I think that's what a large portion of the society wants. But I also think that's a mirage. I think that would get old very quickly. Granted, it would be nice to have a personal chef, but it's fun to cook. It'd be nice to have someone do your own laundry. I hate doing laundry, right? But it'd be nice to have all these things automated, but I don't know. I think it might be too much. There'll be a point where it will be too much. Wouldn't you think so, Chris?
Yeah, as you were talking, I was thinking a lot about our Constitution here in America. And I know not everyone that listens to us is American. I know we have a lot of people that listen from Australia. So hello down under. But here it's kind of enshrined in the Constitution that you have the right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And I think that word is so important there, the pursuit of happiness. I think as more and more as I see the craziness that is our government and the craziness that is the people that make up that make up the governed, we forgot that it's not government's role, or the role of all of society, is not to make you happy. It's to give you the ability to pursue happiness on your own terms. But too many people are willing to give everything up, to lose the dependence on their life, the control, in order to just have the convenience, the not having to try anymore. And that's pretty scary. I mean, is the illusion of control more dangerous than actually having control?
Wow. Is the illusion of control more dangerous than not having control? And you know, it's so funny. Do we ever have control?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I don't think so. You know, I really don't think so. And that's just part of the experience. You know, you got to give that up. That's a thinker. That's a thinker. I thought we had a lot of good thinker moments in Monday's episode that allowed me to ponder some stuff over the week. But now you're hitting me with a weekend ponder. Now I got to go and just meditate on these questions, man. Interesting.
So let me ask you again, Dominic. We kind of ended Friday's podcast with this. At this point, knowing what we've talked about with AI, with the way it's managing finances, with everything that we know about how intelligent it is, and the scary thing is this is as dumb as it's ever going to be. It's going to keep on getting smarter until we decide to unplug it. And it seems that unplugging it might not be as easy as we thought, because you're going to have other issues. So at this point, would you be willing to outsource your paycheck, your management of your money, your the energy that you create by giving your life away to a robot, because it can manage it, or the hope that it can manage it better than you can, manage your life energy better than you can yourself?
How do you deal with someone who has no moral compass? How do you deal with someone that has no responsibility? How do you operate with someone who tells you things and is the best liar you've ever met? All of those things explain ChatGPT, right? ChatGPT's lied to me, and I've missed it, right? It has no responsibility to tell me the truth. It only tells me what it knows, and sometimes what it knows is incorrect. How do you deal with that, right? If I gave you those three, that what I just said, the three different things, right? Would you give up what's most important? Would you give what's most important, not most, but very important, and let it do its thing, right? Would a person of those characteristics, would you let them babysit your kid? I wouldn't. I'm looking for like a Mary Poppins kind of vibe, me personally. No, but I think it's an honest question. We can't tell when it lies sometimes. It has no personal response. What are you gonna do? Fire it? What are you talking about? Right? You're gonna sue it? Come on. I think it's a tool. It's a tool. I think it's to be used as a tool, not as a second brain, not as a full brain, we'll say. But Chris, it seemed like you had a thought there.
Yeah, I was thinking about it. If our money is the personification of the life energy that we use in order to attain said money, and I don't mean that like all money is energy in some woo-woo way. I'm saying the way that you attain money is by giving up your life, your non-renewable resources, your time, in order to acquire money by giving value to somebody else, and they'll give you money in return. So if we go through our entire life thinking that way, I don't think it really matters if you're outsourcing it to an AI algorithm or to a real life person who's a financial advisor. At the end of the day, are you going to give your time, the one non-renewable resource we can generate, to somebody else to control? And I don't care if we're talking about AI or if we're talking about a personal finance expert. At the end of the day, that's the way I come down on everything, is that you need to take personal responsibility. You need to be the hero of your own story. And I think that too many people, at first they're like, oh, I don't want to use financial advisors because financial advisors are corrupt. And I agree with you. Many of them are. And now we're moving into another place where it's like, oh, well, at least the AI isn't corrupt. Like, you don't know that. It's only based off of whoever happens to be controlling it at the moment. And we don't know who that is, whether that be OpenAI or X or whoever else. And maybe you're behind them right now, but what happens if things change in the future? No matter what, you need to be the hero of your own story. You need to be the person that's making decisions, that's in the driver's seat. Too many people are willing to hand over the steering wheel, sit in the passenger seat. Shit, they want to just go sit inside the trunk and just get driven around. And that's not a life.
I think that's an amazing analogy. Most people do want to just be in the trunk. Hey, here's the keys. Just take me where you need to go. Kind of general direction I want to go. Just take me there. What an interesting sentiment. Well, I think we're going to move on to our next phase of this podcast. But before we go, remember the 4 different kind of moments to ponder from this episode, right? Remember, if we outsource our financial decisions to AI, are we also outsourcing our responsibility? Now, these are things that I want you guys to think about over the weekend and over the week and the months coming, right? At what point does convenience turn into dependence? Is the illusion of control more dangerous than not having control? And can AI ever truly understand risk the way humans do, especially with emotions involved? With that being said, we're going to be moving on to our 5 Friday feedback viewer mailbag. This is the part of the podcast where people from the community write in, and we take their story, we put it into ChatGPT, and then we spit out, we just read whatever ChatGPT gives, right? Just kidding. That's a joke, guys. That's a joke. I hope you guys, there was no chuckle in the audience. Chris didn't even smile. Anyway, this is where you guys send in your problems, anything you guys might need help with, maybe some questions, and we give our life experience. Chris gives his financial experience, and we talk about it, we chat about it. So with that being said, let's get right into it. Today's letterhead is, should I nuke my 401k to kill this debt? I don't like all of the AI and nuke in one. It's giving me like Terminator vibes right now. Not a big fan of that. Not a big fan about that. Howdy, Fi Guys. Have you seen John Connor? First off, love the show. You guys have this way of making complex money stuff feel like a real conversation over beers, not a lecture. I've laughed, learned, and probably rewound more times than I should admit just to catch some of those gems that you guys drop. Now I need some real talk wisdom because honestly, I'm in a bit of a spot. My wife and I are staring down about $50,000 in credit card debt. It didn't happen because we were just careless or chasing some flashy lifestyle. It happened because life hit us right in the gut. Last year, my wife was diagnosed with a degenerative disease, one of those slow, cruel conditions that steals pieces of your time. Whew. She had to stop working, unfortunately, and just like that, our 2-income household became one. I bring in about $115,000 a year. Not bad on paper, but between the debt, the medical costs, and the day-to-day living, we're treading water hard. Paycheck to paycheck feels generous some months. Now, here's the kicker. Between the two of us, we've got about $240,000 in 401k retirement savings. Mine is $175,000. Nice. And hers is $71,000. Also nice. It should feel like a win, right? But instead, it feels like money locked behind glass while the house is on fire. That's a solid analogy, actually. That's a really perfect analogy. I need to keep our credit clean because I'll need a new car next year. Okay, we'll talk about that. But the stress of the debt is brutal. I'm seriously considering pulling from my 401k just to wipe out the credit card debts. I know that there are penalties, taxes, and long-term implications, but I also know how it feels to open the credit card statements and just want to scream. So here's my raw ask. Should I bite the bullet, pay the fees, and pull the money? Or is that just the panic talking? I know you guys believe in building a life on your own terms. Right now, it feels like life is building me into a corner. I would love your thoughts, and I'm okay with some tough love if I need it. Thanks for what you do. From the fees feel wrong, but the debt feels long. As my wife's health is fading, the debt keeps on parading. How about that?
Boy.
Well, both of us wish your wife a speedy recovery. That is tough. That is tough. Yeah. Just a heads up, guys, for anytime you guys want to send in a letter, this guy did a great job, but the more information you can give, the more detail, right? Age, what city, cost of, all these different metrics, the better, right? Because 115,000 might sound, dude, that's amazing, right? If you're living in Columbus, Ohio, if you're living in maybe LA, Beverly Hills, New York City, that's a different story, right? Chris, what do you think? What are we starting off with this
Yeah,
one?
first off, I want to just say I'm really sorry to hear about your wife, and I hope that the doctor's visits are going well, and that hopefully there's some sort of a way to come back from that. I know that they said that it's one of those slow diseases that takes pieces of you over time. So I may not know what that means particularly just based off that, but I just want to give you mad respects for being transparent and just know that you're in a tough spot. And it sounds to me like you're handling it with grace and responsibility. You're not trying to say this is somebody else's fault or any of this stuff. You're figuring it out. So when it comes to tapping the 401k, Dominic, what are your thoughts on that first off before I kind of get into the finance stuff?
For me, it all comes down to the rate at which the money grows and what kind of fees we're looking at. Because we know that the credit card debt, the percentage on the credit card debt is much higher than the rate of return on your 401k, I would assume. I would assume, right? So you've got the debt growing bigger, and I don't know, like, how many credit cards are we talking? Are they all at their limit? Is there like 50K like the limit, and like, you're just making minimum payments? Or is this like your credit limit is 100,000 and it could go up to 100,000 or higher? I'm not always the biggest fan of taking out of your 401k, but there is a price on peace of mind, especially when you're like, the money is like a side fire. Mm-hmm. The main fire is obviously your wife getting healthier. That's the main, that's the main fire, right? All the energy, the focus should go towards that. The money should be a secondary thought. Unfortunately, in today's society, right, money it's oftentimes the main focus, right? Mm-hmm. And that's unfortunate here. As far as pulling it out, it depends on how old you are. If you guys are newlyweds, you're 25 years old, you got this much saved, I'd probably say, yeah, pull it out. Let's bite the bullet and handle these bills. But let's say you're not 25, maybe you're 45, maybe you're 55. I don't know. That becomes a little bit more of a difficult situation because you don't have as much financial time to build up the revenue and the storages, right? Like the 401k and all these different things. So it's kind of hard to tell without saying, like, 115, good on paper. Where are you living, right? There's so many different avenues. And it's kind of interesting. This is the perfect story because this goes back to our AI versus human. If you had a human, right, which I got two of them right here, and one of them is actually, this is his job, you'd say, well, all right, well, can we move in with family, right? Can we cut costs? Where can we cut costs? Where can we maybe we can downsize a little bit to save money on bills, on rent, so that we have a little bit more money to throw at this debt, right? It's so hard to know. There's so many factors that we just don't know about. And I think that's where I'm going to hand my torch over to Chris, who might echo a lot of what I just said. But maybe, what do you think, Chris?
Yeah, I think you hit on a really important point, and that is that we can't give specific advice because we don't know this person specifically. So the only thing I can do is give pretty generalized advice and hope that it helps, and more ask questions that might be able to give this person more insight on what the right decision might be. But for me, I would not tap the 401k yet. And yet is an important word. There may be a time when you hit it, but right now, based off what I'm hearing, I don't think you should. I feel that the 401k is the last resort. Now, I also have to preface that with, I don't know this person's age. I don't know what's going on. Like, they could be right next to, they could be 61. There are no penalties. I don't know. They could be a year away from that. They could be 24. I don't know that kind of stuff. So we just have to go off there. But when it comes to doing an early withdrawal, you have to think about the taxes, the penalties, and the loss of compounding effect. All of that is going to equal long-term pain. While it may help you in the short term, sometimes sacrificing short-term pain for long-term pain isn't really worth it. But that's only a decision that you can make up. And there's so many other factors that we'd have to consider before being able to make that decision. So what I would do is I would focus on lowering the interest on your monthly payments first before we get to that final stage of tapping the 401k. So if you've ever considered a 0% APR transfer for your credit card balance, now remember that there are typically fees in order to do that, typically 2 to 3%. And you have to be sure that you have a plan to pay that credit card off before the 0 APR intro offer goes away, typically within a year or 18 months. If you don't do that within time, there is some credit cards that can retroactive apply the APR to the entire transaction, which would be awful. So that's something you really need to make sure that you're doing. Another option could be a personal loan with a lower interest rate, maybe even a home equity line of credit where you're taking some money out against the home in order to get a lower APR in order to pay off the credit card balances. Because on average, credit cards have an APR of 15 to 20, upwards of like 25%, even higher on some of the more premier credit cards. But you could get a loan, a personal loan, where you put something as collateral, maybe the home, maybe not the home. That's just something to consider. Or you can get one with an APR of 7 to 9%. You can almost half the APR just by doing something like that. Now, again, there's huge amounts of risk to that. You're putting up the credit, you're putting up the home against it. Right now, you could file for bankruptcy and get rid of those credit cards. Again, you're going to have your credit score definitely take a hit, which you wanting to buy a car next year wouldn't be very good for that, which is something we should talk about. Do you really need to buy a car next year? Because right now it doesn't seem like that's the priority. What do you think about that, Dominic? Or should he buy the car? I don't.
No, man. Listen. I'm all about getting a car that you can pay off quickly. I don't know what kind of driver you are. I don't know what kind of car you need. Do you need a car with wheelchair access? Do you need a truck to put stuff in the back? Like, I don't know what your life is. Again, details, and you got to know the person. I'm all for buying secondhand, and I'm all for buying from old people, to be honest. Old people take care of their cars usually, right? They always get the maintenance done. And you can usually get a good price, right? Versus like if you went with like Carvana, or if you go to like a buy straight off the lot, like a new car, right? My car's older. It's a little bit older. It's super comfortable. It's reliable. The mileage is fine, right? I have no car payment on it, and I've got liability. Right? It's just what I have on it. That's how I like to live my life. It's just a personal choice. I would recommend it for everybody, right? Maybe a little bit more insurance than just liability, but that's just how I live my life, right? If you are going to get a new car, and I mean, this car that you have better be broken. The wheels better be, all four wheels gone. The transmission's below, like, this car better be destroyed, like, truthfully. There's definitely a time to get new cars. There's definitely a time to get a dream car, that wonderful, like, oh man, it's a new car. Like, there's definitely a time for that. It's just not right now. And that's okay, right? You're just not in that season. I would definitely look around Facebook Marketplace, stuff like that. And always make sure to get it checked out by a mechanic before you make a final purchase. It's always wise. And a mechanic that you can trust. But as far as like getting new things, I think he's in the mindset too of, he's only getting it out of necessity. It's not out of like, dude, you see that new RAV4? I gotta get it. Like, I don't think it's like that. I think he truly is getting it out of necessity.
I would certainly hope so, but I wanted to make sure we brought that up, that it is a necessity and not a like, oh, I've been really wanting this car for years, and then my wife's stuff happened, but like I'm still going to get this car. One thing I do want to bring up though,
or like, I deserve it.
Yeah, I deserve it. I'm going through a lot. I need this.
I deserve it. Yeah. No, bad purchase.
One thing I do want to talk about, though, that they can do, and this is for all of our audience members, if you have credit card debt, there is nothing against you calling the credit card companies and asking for like a hardship program or even a temporary reduction in interest rates. The worst thing they can say to you is no. They're not going to be like, oh, you called and we said no, so we're going to double the credit card payment. Like, that's not going to be a thing. You could always ask the question. But again, you need to be your own advocate. You need to be the person that makes a God forbidden phone call and sit there and talk to the person like a human being, let them know what's going on and see if they're willing to help you. Because ideally, there's another person on the other side of that line whose job is to obviously get as much money for the company as they can, but is still a human being and wants to help somebody that is kind to them. So that's always an option to trying to reduce some of the payments that you're making right now. In addition to that, we just can't stop there. We need to explore ways to bring in more income. I understand that right now your wife can't work or maybe can't work the job that she currently has. So is there any way that you can bring on another part-time job, or even your wife in her limited capacity can do a part-time job, whether that be freelancing or something like DoorDash, just something to ease the pressure off just a little bit? I understand your wife now might not be able to work 40 hours a week at her old job, but is there something she can do? Or is there something that you can do on the other way to bring in a little bit extra money? Even an extra $500 a month can make a huge dent over the course of a year in $55,000 of debt. I know it feels like nothing. I know it feels like, oh man, I only made $6,000 additional that went towards my debt, but 6,000 could be years off of paying off debt. And if those years can save you from having to take another regrettable decision where you take out a different loan that could lose you your house or put on more stress, it may be very much worth it. We've talked a little bit about ways to reduce the expenses you have. We've talked ways about increasing the income. I think the other thing we need to talk about are there ways to lower how much you're spending? Can we adjust our lifestyle even temporarily? And what that means is cutting aggressively for the next 6 to 12 months and making it survival mode is okay when you're fighting for your future and when your wife is fighting for her existence. Now, I don't know what the state of your wife is. I don't know if it's like, hey, there's not much time and you want to make the most of it with her while she's here. If that's the case, me personally, I would be a burn the boats kind of guy. Like, F it, we're just gonna make the best we can with the time we have remaining. But again, I'm going to the worst case scenario, and I really hope that that's not what's going on here. But I want to give you that option, let you know that like this is what I would do, but that's just me. You're the one who has to live the life, after your wife's gone, and ideally that's not even like part of it. That's just where my brain is going. For the medical situation with your wife, I would certainly look into Social Security disability insurance, or state-specific benefits for her. That could maybe give you a financial breathing room when it comes to the medical expenses. Again, I have zero knowledge of what your wife is going through. All it said was one of those things that takes parts of you over time. I have no idea what that means, but ideally, this is where government steps in to help people when we've fallen down. And there are many programs out there that are built especially for that. The final thing I want to talk about is your mental health matters to our writer specifically, and your wife's mental health matters. Stress from debt and illness is real. And too many people just look at it as like, oh, it's a moral failing that you put yourself into credit card debt. Based off everything you said, there's no moral failing. Life happened. And life kicked you guys in the ass, and that's not fair. But unfortunately, life is not fair. So don't carry this alone. You reached out to a podcast, and we read this in front of people. Obviously, we didn't put your name, but I want you to feel safe seeking support. Feel safe talking to people. Feel safe talking to friends, family members, members of the community, anyone that can help you. I can't promise, but if people judge you for what happened to you and like say that's a moral failing on your part, you don't want those types of people in your life. You're not failing, you're fighting. And that counts for a lot in a world where people don't fight. They just complain. You're doing everything that you possibly can. And Dominic and I, we believe in your ability to do that. If you need more specific help, you can always reach out to me, Chris at monsonwealth.com. You can go to monsonwealth.com, book an appointment right there. I do complimentary appointments to see if I can help any of our guests that write in. So please feel free to do that. If I'm not the right person for you, please just seek out somebody that can help you, someone to listen, even if it just means a therapist. Because I'm going to guess right now with what you're going through, that might be one of those expenses that I would not cut on if it's something that you really, really need. Please keep that mental health in order, because without that, you're not going to be able to continue to fight. Dominic, do you have anything else that I've triggered in your brain?
I have no final thoughts. I think you know what? Actually, no, I do have something to say. Not for the person writing in, but for everyone else listening. Never take any moments for granted. Never take your loved ones for granted. Never let a fight get into something more serious than it is. Just cherish the people you love, because you never know when it's the last moment, right? Please cherish your loved ones. Cherish your life. Be grateful for your life. Keep that gratitude front and center. It'll lead you to great things in this life. Really, really great happiness and just a beautiful life. So please be grateful for what you have, not for what you don't have. I don't have anything else for our viewer here, our writer here on today's episode. But yeah, I'm tapped out.
Yeah.
I think you said everything
Well,
in the best way possible.
big hugs from Arizona. You got this. Please reach out when you have some more information. We'd be happy to get you back in when you write in telling us that everything's going better and your wife's healthy. So I look forward to that day.
Love it. With that being said, we're going to be moving on to our win of the week. We do this every Friday where we try and end the podcast a little bit on a lighter note to inspire you to maybe you guys have a win of the week as well. If you do, feel free to drop it in the comments on Spotify, YouTube, anywhere you can leave comments. Do leave comments. Chris, what is your win of the week?
So as you can see, if you watch this on YouTube with our beautiful faces, that the back office of my room is getting very, very empty. We've been getting rid of more and more things as we prep to move to San Diego, which is going to be happening in a little bit less than a month right now. So we've just been very blessed and able to give, or I feel blessed that we've been able to give a lot of the things that we were going to get rid of to people at my wife's work and been able to benefit them so much with some of the furniture we're giving away prior to our move. We've also been able to donate to people at my jiu-jitsu gym, people at Lifetime Fitness, at the gym that I work at as well. So it's been really nice to be able to help people with some of the stuff that we've accumulated over time. It's just crazy how much stuff accumulates when you're like not paying attention. So I'm glad that it can benefit somebody rather than just going in a trash.
Absolutely. And that's really interesting because I know you and your wife, every start of the year, you guys really downsize, you try and be as minimalist as possible. So it's interesting to hear even you say things build up over time. It kind of makes me a little bit nervous about my own house. I'm like, I'm not a minimalist. And he's having, he had a time downsizing too. So I'm like, I might need to do a little cleanliness, doing a little spring cleaning here and kind of downsize a little bit. Well, cool. That's nice. I hate throwing things in the trash that could be used by other people. That breaks my heart. So I'm really happy to hear that people are getting some use out of it as well.
I think it's
life continues.
I think it's also important to say that if you are taking things to Goodwill and stuff, like please make sure you're taking things that are actually valuable. I think too many people are like, I so don't want to throw this away that I'm just going to give Goodwill my garbage so they can throw it away. So I've been going there more and more often, just bringing them stuff. And they're like, hey, thanks for keeping on bringing like good stuff. And I was like, what do you mean? Like people bring us like old magazines that like no one's going to read and we have to throw it away for them. And I was like, oh, that kind of sucks. So like, actually be thoughtful about it.
So my win of the week is I got two. So I'll start out with the smaller one. My mom got me this this energy focus gum. I'm all about like these different products to help me be more efficient. But I've been trying that recently and it's been fun. It's been really, I like it. Second win of the week is I had an amazing call. For those that don't know, me on my journey financially, I'm trying to be more of a wholesaler and investor in real estate and whatnot. The goal for me, wholesale properties until I can save enough money to get my own investment property. And today the journey went even further. I got in contact with an amazing realtor. We talked for about 30 minutes. It's part of the reason why I was late to podcast. But we had a wonderful conversation. And, it was interesting because all the lessons I've learned over the different books I've read, the podcasts I've listened to, and the mentors I've had culminated, right? Rather than me calling and making an offer, I had them describe to me the deal that they were looking for. And I already had a deal in mind and it lined up pretty well with the deal I was going to structure, but a little bit different. So I didn't throw out the first number. They threw out the first number. That's really interesting. And the realtor has like a bunch more properties in the same like type that I'm really excited to look at and everything. So it's an exciting time, boys. It's an exciting time. So I actually have a good win of the week this week. So that would be my win of the week. So things are going well in that front. And that's mine. If you guys have a win of the week, drop it down below. I want to hear all about it. And truthfully, I do want to hear all about it. But that being said, any final thoughts, Chris, before we jet out of here for the weekend?
Let's jet out of here for the weekend. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Five Guys for Five Friday feedback. If you got any value today, please give it a like, give us a subscribe, leave a comment. And most importantly, tell somebody about the Five Guys, share this journey of financial independence with somebody else and bring someone along for the journey so you have another person to bounce ideas off of and someone to pick you up when you fall down or for you to pick them up when they fall down. This journey is not a short one. It's a long one. And it's better to go together than it is to go alone. So with that, I'm Chris. He's Dom. We're the Five Guys. Later.
Peace.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.